Yeah, so I don't know how much is this interesting to you. I don't know how much you can hear this. Yeah, today is the Friday, the 16th, in March of 2012, but I'm about... Can you imagine yourself slip here on this bath with this noise? Just so you know, the floor is actually shaking. And this has been going for over half a year now. That's right, coming right from here, it's all around the house, but look. The guy is literally walking back and forth with the machine. He's going that way, soon he's going to turn around and he's going to come this way. And so this game goes on. There's a bulldozer right there. Soon he will come this way. Okay, let's go that way, and he'll turn, he'll come back. In fact, I think he is already coming this way. I'm going to show you this game. There you go, he's coming from right around the corner. No, this isn't a joke, this is actually real. I think he doesn't want to be on a camera, and well, I don't blame him. Good. Yeah, just so you see how long this stuff is. Today's the March the 19th, however, Monday. There you go, this is the March 14th, 2012. The rage construction continues here. It did throughout the entire winter. Okay, so here's what it is. It's more madness here. Today, December the 7th, 2011 is what it is. And this is just getting crazy. Crazier and crazier. This is the February the 22nd. Right now, it's, at the time, it was not even 7 o'clock in the morning when this crap already started for the day. And this is going on for months already. The construction work. And this is like, I'm gonna say, like highly crazy. There you go. I have never heard for stuff like this to go on during the winter time, like this, at the temperatures like this, so low. This is getting crazy. Look at what this is. Yep.
Današnjo novico vlade lahko res sprejmemo živeli bomo namreč slabše kot lani. Medtem ko večina evropskih držav zaradi varčevalnih ukrepov že beleži postopno okrepanje.
Great instrument that is used to drive people insane. Let's go, we'll have a little look, see what's happening. I'm sure you can hear this.
Today is March 21st, 2012. It is Wednesday, and I'm about to take off where I have stopped previously. The word was about Obama, or how some people are so passionate about Obama, when in fact Obama is no different from David Duke. Two are gangsters, and more than anything, what is 70-year-old news. '70-year-old news, or rather, what is truth? Truth per white nationalism issues, or how Obama and David Duke are trying to portray themselves as, and or rather what exactly white nationalism is used for. Okay? To understand that, to understand the real Obama, the real David Duke, we have to go to, in my case, personal case, to what is now 70-year-old news, just as I have stated in the previous video where I already partially explained. In continuation, I will go to MKUltras and other mind control methods. However, it's really important. Okay, it's extremely important to be truthful to yourself and not allow the little procedures such as MKUltra, this forced brain implants which have taken place against me and so on, to control or cloud cover what the truth is. And the truth is, to know what the truth is, we have to go, in my case, in my kindergarten days, or even what was elementary later. Kindergarten days or elementary, in case if I start with elementary, it's no different from kindergarten. Elementary I have entered at age 6. Okay, I was almost 7. And when I have entered one, in the same class, in the same grade, this system in so-called, in what used to be Yugoslavia before, and it's now Slovenia, this northern portion of what used to be Yugoslavia. The circumstances, the situation was chaotic. It was this post-World War II era, and our school was administered by what were ex-concentration camp survivors from World War II. Therefore, it was extremely anti-German, pro-Soviet, pro-Russian, pro-Serbian, pro-Yugoslav, and in Tito's Yugoslavia, Tito was a president back then. Situation was well, not only were our people executed with straight executions, imprisoned if the system didn't like for a little thing or whatever. But further, as a kid, when I have entered this, not in the kindergarten, but then elementary school, I was basically placed in the same class with other kids that were deliberately failed, even twice, 3 times, whatever, and on whose average, well, they were even 3-4 years older than myself, okay? And these kids were basically used to lead little gangs, packs of up to 10 or more kids. The kids whose age on average ranged 2 years over mine. Yeah, I was this on average when kids entered the first grade elementary was the age was 7, 8, and 9 even. While you have these kids that they were deliberately failed or have repeated the class 2-3 times, whatever. They entered lately and then they have them failed twice, whatever. And those were really used by this pro-Yugoslav communists to regulate. It started from very, very early development, and when considering that age difference, one is never greater than during early child's development. If you enter at age 6 and you have over there you have kid that is 10, 11 years old, well, that's a huge difference. Regardless of that difference, however, when I entered that first grade, I was already developed physically and mentally, no different from kids that were 10, 11 years old. In fact, I think that I was quite in that upper portion of what would be considered as like third grader kid, that very few could actually even match my physical abilities. Due to this very reason, yeah, at age what was 10, 11, 12, vaccinations started, okay? Forced vaccinations with lies per how these vaccinations are used to improve my appearance, but while in reality these vaccinations were actually used to retire a child, yeah? So this issue, this post-World War II chaotic issue here in the so-called Slovenia went completely out of the hand, because this concentration camp survivors and their kids, I have in my mind an individual here that works at local employment agency, but actually even today believes that he is a son from Joseph Stalin. I have him in mind, for instance. These individuals were severely sick, disturbed people who were convinced how in their heads it was everything about, if I recall my childhood, they were only talking about superior race, how Adolf Hitler was trying to raise superior kids, superior kids, this and that, and well, you are talking about this so-called Slovenia that used to be part of German nations for over 1,500 years, and pretty much when you were a child from here, especially it all depended on your parents, on their profile. My parents were really worse than pedophiles, I think, because to subject your child to that type of treatment, I think it's disgusting. But foremost, more than anything, no different. With the system, with this pro-Yugoslav system, each, therefore, parents and government have their portion of blame in it. Things would not happen, would not take place without them. My mother was present when those vaccinations have taken place against me. The idea was to gain control over me. Therefore, these people were control maniacs, psychopaths. To vaccinate the child, to retard his growth, to retard his mental development and stuff like that. It's really insane. It's sick more than anything else. This is pretty much the situation that is extremely important for you to understand, because the next I'm going to testify you about was my meeting kids at age 12 who have arrived from what was Norway. Yeah, strange but real. This elementary school in so-called Slovenia, have totally collaborated. It's actually unofficial, is basically what I was told. However, we have had inspections coming from ex-Soviet Union, from Russia, from Bulgaria, from Poland, and other Eastern European countries, and with exception of as well what was Norway, believe it or not. But yeah, at age 12 I have met this beautiful couple. It was a boy and girl from Norway. I was led, I was taken to meet them by one of older kids. He took me, he said, come on, you're gonna go with me and you're gonna meet someone. And I didn't know anything about him. He takes me in front of these two kids, and in English language, I just started with one. I wanted to prove myself to them, but the other kid he actually assisted me and he helped me with that. He almost wanted to show up or whatever, that his English skills or whatever. But anyhow, yeah, I was pretty much taken to meet these two kids, and it was this beautiful girl, a boy, for whom I understand they were on average, let's say 2 years older than myself. Year 2, 3 years, whatever, it doesn't make no difference. I was impressed with their physique, because I deemed that they were grown-ups almost. I thought that they were already in like high school, completing their high school or whatever, and they were not. It's just year 2 or 3 years, something like that, older than myself. I was really impressed. Beautiful, whatever. It doesn't matter really. However, the idea behind it all was for these kids actually to be used. They were referred to me as per white nationalism issues. However, the truth was that the pro-Yugoslav communist Slovenian system here had very much anticipated my escaping from here at my earliest convenience. There was no secret or wonder that at one point in my life I am gonna escape from here, because life was unbearable since kindergarten here for me as a child from here. Okay, and therefore idea was to have certain to see what my response is going to be, toward these kids. And these kids were probably, I think that you can, in human evolution, when you see such a beautiful kids, there is nothing more that you can actually expect from human. I think that they were like beautiful kids. Anyhow, of course, the response was very accepting, and pretty much it's what this was used for, to keep control over me once emigrating abroad, once escaping from this system, which I did at age 23. Okay, let's go a little bit back and talk a little bit more about Norway, how Norway was the one that have this access. That how would it be only possible? I don't know how much you remember Cold War era, but Western states and Eastern states were pretty much cold on many issues. I'm not going to say all, because I don't know really what was going on. I am really, really skeptic about all this stuff. I don't think so that only was in this King Harald case. Okay, who was the King Harald? King Harald of Norway is basically his family had to run from Norway during the Second World War, and in my opinion, unfortunately, they had to run because of the German invasion from Norway. However, they had great fault in it as well, because they didn't care about anyone, to be honest, to be frank about. You see, this royal family was extremely unique, but this Scandinavian cooperation issues, they did not feel anything at all for poor Finland, which was basically invaded even prior to World War II by what was Soviet Union. In fact, their help was ridiculous. They have sent 2,000 soldiers to assist little Finland, who have fought for its existence against the Soviet Union. So therefore, really, really disgusting people to begin with. But regardless of that, regardless of their what you would call whatever, personality, whatever, they were forced to run for their life during the Second World War, when Germany invaded Norway in order to penetrate all the way to Finland. And I feel that if you have to leave the country, if you're forced to leave the country under any circumstances, however, you leave one for the sake of your life, because you have to, and no other choice than that. And I don't feel as correct for anyone to, especially what had taken place in Norway during the Second World War. I disagree with that. However, it did not have to take as drastic turn as it did. The situation did not have to take that drastic turn as it did after the Second World War, when this very same psychologically disturbed maniac, controlled psychopath as well, lunatic, have inherited from his father already what was a state where numerous ethnic Norwegians were simply assassinated or subjected to what were lobotomy procedures and so on. So if you go per average, per capita, this is the state probably with the highest on average lobotomy procedures in the entire world. And it's exactly where this King Harald was so active, and with his communists in his parliament, which have, I understand, had as a result also enormous admiration in Eastern European Slavic states where severe genocide was taking place against Eastern Europeans, especially those that were non-Slavs or non-communists, and this in their own countries. I have in my mind anywhere from Latvia, Estonia, even Ukraine, Slavic countries, Poland and so on. As soon as it was non-communist and it was not in line with these gangsters, immediately you could just wave goodbye to your life. This is how the situation was. And yeah, so this was one of the reasons why this maniac, a lunatic Norwegian, have had access throughout the Eastern European area with his, I would refer to them as nothing else than crews of death, is what I would refer to them. As I'm about to talk to you in continuation, you are talking about psychiatrists, psychologists, 70-year-old news that was pretty much used later on to control, it was used for abductions, to forcefully implant brain electrodes, to destroy my jobs, with Obama's, with the American Zionist communist option. And then, as I have mentioned in my video 78, greatly I have already explained, with options such as this David Duke. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, that this gangster David Duke is nothing else than 70-year-old news. Now, you can't really refer to him not even as a traitor, because that's all there is. He is just a 70-year-old news. He's a bogus nationalism. He's just a lie, a pretense, and is highly accepted and tolerated by Russians, by Soviets, because of his idea how is just insane, that Russia is the key to survival for the white people and so on and stuff like that. So he is very accepted in that area, and unfortunately also very much involved in the crime against me. So all this crap, all this stuff will create for you what is 70-year-old news. And this bogus nationalism involves the issues such as 9/11, involves the issues, as I'm about to talk to you, MKUltra, this forced brain implants and all that stuff, yada yada yada, when basically in fact these criminals, post-World War II gangsters, this Zionist, communist, or if you want by Zionist America dominated West, and then in Eastern Bloc you have this by communist dominated East. Even today the situation is no different. They are using one to simply disqualify, to simply disregard targeted people. In America, targeted whites for whatever reason, yes. And in Eastern Russia or throughout the Eastern Europe, also those that oppose to the communist regimes or are non-Slavs. That's therefore it's an option. It's an option that is used to promote rights of the white people when in fact is false. It's nothing else than a lie. Yeah, well, the individual that likes to talk about 9/11 and stuff like this, conspiracy, is identified as a conspiracy theorist. The individual that is talking about MKUltra is quickly associated, affiliated with someone that is suffering from schizophrenia or bipolar disease. And the rest of it we can just really forget about. This, what I'm trying to explain to you is that in my personal case, the truth is the kindergarten, the early elementary days prior to this garbage, this lie, per white nationalism cooperation, and foremost, denial of the right to education, the forced vaccinations that have taken place against me, later on even what were forced brain implants, which were performed first in 98, was one electrode that was implanted in me, and then in 2003 the two electrodes were substituted and another one was implanted, updated basically. McCulloch procedures also were used. All that stuff was basically used throughout my life period in order to disqualify me, in order to prevent me from my family, which is, in other words, job, prosperity, same as other people have. That's all there was.
Je 9. maj, ko praznujemo Dan Evrope, praznujemo dan, ko se spominjamo na zmago nad nacizmom v Evropi, na skupen boj proti nacizmu in fašizmu. Slovenija. Because our friendship between Norway and
Norveško in nekdanjo Jugoslavijo izvira že iz vojnega časa.
Nice to meet you again, Your Majesty.
Veliko veselje vas je ponovno srečen, gospod, vaše veličanstvo, dobrodošli v Sloveniji. Morda vprašanje glede... Stari ste 74 let. To vprašanje mi Norvežani pravzaprav pogosto postavljajo. Mislila, da se mi je odpulilo, da mi boste to povedala in da takrat bom predal vajati.
Defense and security industries, medical services and many others. Majesty, you have mentioned the Norwegian financial mechanism, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention myself how grateful we are for cooperation in that field, which has helped developing quality of life and also preservation of important cultural heritage in Slovenia. Slovenia has succeeded recently in obtaining international certification of our health institutions. And I would like to say that this is only a beginning. The European Union is moving intensely towards internationalization of medical services. We know that this is a complex process, that people are generally attached to medical assistance in the places where they live. But at the same time, specialization is necessary. New technologies, new procedures, new developments, which are natural in an era when life expectancy is growing. All this innovation, all this novelty calls for specialization. We believe that the entire European space will have to think about specialization in new ways, and if we have to think which medical institutions would specialize in ways that would offer high level of services to patients from every part of Europe. And I believe that Slovenia and Norway can develop in this area important cooperation. I mentioned this area in some more detail because it is new. We are not used to think about medical services in terms of our economic cooperation. But if we think more thoroughly about it, we'll see that the differences between these two areas, the classical economic cooperation and medical services, may not be as great as it looks at the first glance. So this is a good symbol of a need, our common need to innovate, to be daring, to look for new opportunities with great hope, expectation, courage, and success eventually.
open her eyes so I can tell you she knows we are here.
Danes sem tu v Trbovljah zaradi pravic žensk, zaradi enakopravnosti žensk. To je izredno pomembna, prvorazredna tema v Sloveniji, tudi politična tema. In danes ne nameravam dati nobenih izjav o nobeni drugi temi. Ampak poslovno so zelo hude, predvsem to, da se politični vrst sploh ne odziva na razkritje takšnih zločinov. Bom našel čas, ko bom odgovoril tudi na to, ampak rad bi ponovil. Danes sem tu zaradi prvorazredne teme in o drugorazrednih temah ne bom govoril. Politične manipulacije okrog tega so. Še kakšno vprašanje?
Medijacija z Hrvaško so drugorazredna tema.
V primerjavi z enakopravnostjo žensk, da.
Vendar so ravno tudi ženske.
To ne vemo, to naj raziščejo ljudje, ki raziskujejo. Hvala lepa.
Okay, so now when you already know the truth about 70-year-old news, the truth about real Obama, the truth about David Duke, or rather David Puke, gangster, criminal. And before I will get down onto issue how during 1998, this so-called Slovenian pro-Yugoslav communist scum, which have had abducted me with Norwegian crew of psychiatrists, psychologists, and in full collaboration with CIA, FBI, therefore United States of America government, and once here in so-called Slovenia, on one of the issues that I was interrogated by this local police here, and just was per David Duke issue as well. Therefore, they have had this David Puke, this Russian gangster criminal, in their mind already in what was 1998 abduction, and therefore the police that have interrogated me here during McAllister procedure in so-called Slovenia was very much interested if I am willing to assist, if I am willing to help David Duke. And I didn't know much about David Duke. What I knew about is that he basically is what each and every one of you knows. And that's how he is fighting for the rights of the Boer people, for the rights of the white people, and so on. On what I have confirmed my willingness to help in a situation as much as possible. However, it becomes all too obvious, and especially when I remind myself of police officer that is in this very village here in Novo Mesto, 1 block away from me here. His name is Metod Jerman, is his name. He have actually threatened me. On behalf of the local government here in so-called Slovenia, in Novo Mesto, how he is the only one and only person that I will assist, and no other nationalist. And that was basically per Russian issues. Because the communists have well explained me how no other person will be trusted or tolerated on behalf of white nationalism from Western Bloc other than David Duke. Therefore, that pretty much confirms that David Duke, gangster David Duke, was involved, and in my case, throughout my stay in the United States of America. However, David Duke was involved on behalf of the United States of America government. Now, through it all, to me, frankly, to me personally, it didn't matter, because if individual was willing to assist, and help Boer people in South Africa, and therefore, to me, it didn't really matter if he was interested in helping American whites. To me, it didn't really matter if Russians, supported him. It was even better, I felt at that time. But today, like I stated, when I look through it all, and after everything I have done for American whites, after everything I have done to promote Western, and not only Western, but worldwide, and that includes Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, and other worldwide white awareness, and I have done it all on my own, through everything I have gone through. And what I have done can never ever be compared with what David Duke, gangster David Duke, have done, who have continually and repeatedly throughout all these years only backstab people, screw them on every step of the way so they wouldn't be basically useful for anything at all, while soliciting the money, support, and so on. What I have done is not worth of every admiration only, but what I have done actually was more than any other white nationalist for the last 70 years in order to promote the rights of the white people. And that basically sets the standard that sets me completely apart from the gangster, from the criminal David Duke. David Duke was also very much involved in my MacArthur procedures, as I stated, but not what you would expect as he was trying to portray himself to Western journalism, to the government alone, and so on, but in light which I will explain more about in my next video, when I will be explicitly talking about MacArthur procedures. For right now, it's important for you to understand and keep in mind what I have stated to you. And before I'm going to get down to MacArthur procedures, I want to concern myself with Norwegian psychologist. Her name is Helle Björklund, and her helper, or the individual that never is too far from her, his name is Dan Anderson, actually. These two gangsters, which are nothing else than the Norwegian assistants to King Harold, or what is 70-year-old news, the multiculturalists, liberals, anarchists, and more than anything, what are gangsters, were involved in my case throughout my stay in the United States of America, present during every abduction. And I'm going to use the two to point out, to explain in detail everything about violent world of psychiatry, or rather violent world of lies. By the way, Helle Björklund, she is a psychiatrist in Oslo, Norway. She is coming from, I believe that's what she had told me, from Lillehammer, Norway. I believe, I am not sure about it, some sources have clearly indicated that she is very well familiarized as well with terror suspect Breivik, or bombing that have taken place in Norway during 2011. Involved with Breivik
with terrorism, with acts of terror and terrorism against Norway, Norwegian people, and whites worldwide, by simply manipulating, inciting individual in crime, so the crime could be later on used and pointed in whites as per, look what they have basically done, and additional oppression, additional measures could be taken against whites. Therefore, this individual, this Helle Björklund is her name, this psychiatrist, it's extremely important for me to talk about. I can set apart a way that Dan Anderson, who was, I'm going to use him as a reference in case that you would not be able to get in touch, investigate about her, how, what, and how. This individual was born in Sweden, Avesta. He, by profession, is a regular laborer, this individual by profession is carpenter, laborer, therefore, but was used in Sweden as well as a psychiatric aid, help in psychiatric hospitals. It was for him step to obtain later on job in what was Norway, where jobs are much better paid than even in Sweden, and for very good pay. He is pretty much willing and have performed, I believe, also additional crimes to myself against other people. Therefore, from Karlstad, Sweden, he have obtained jobs throughout Norway, but have mainly settled in Bergen, Norway. Is well affiliated, associated, and never too far from psychiatrists, psychologists, neurosurgeons in Bergen International University. These are details that definitely are worth to keep in mind. The Norwegian government is using, for the sake of their crime, is using individuals that are by profession and not affiliated or related to fields of psychiatry or neuroscience itself, but are actually training people under the table. So that way, people that were subject to this crime would not be able to point directly and say, "Oh, he did it." How are you going to do this when individual is gonna say, "I'm by profession, I'm a mechanic, or I don't know what I am. I'm a carpenter. I don't know anything about that." So they're really using specially trained people to conduct crime against whites. I have mentioned this gangster, King Harald, and this very same theme. I'm going to mention to you this, and it will be a very smart thing for you to do, Eastern Europeans, especially Eastern Europeans. Be very careful with it. Be on a watch out for that. Especially those of you who got jobs in what is Norway. You need to keep in mind that people that you will work with are specially trained job corps. Like in the United States of America, you have job corps. That's exactly what you have in Norway. You're going to have people from your country that were trained as a job corps of some, even in the United States of America, to afterwards lure you with decent pay, which you're going to see in your newspaper ads, per how you should go in Norway, that you're going to obtain the job. And once you're going to get there, the only thing that's going to happen is they're going to drill your head. They're going to put your electrodes in your head, because the King Harald is a 70-year-old news. And it's like this, hand in hand with the Russians, with the Eastern European communists. So just, you may want to keep in mind, the job in Norway might not be what you expect from your life, because it will turn, more likely than not, it will turn into disaster. When I was in 2010, after I have filed asylum in Canada already, Belgium, Germany, was not allowed to stay in Austria, I have immigrated to Norway, hoped how maybe things could get different over there. Want to remind you that the very same people who were in Miami downtown where I was, and where these Norwegians have targeted me, very same people from Poland, from Eastern Europe, they have had the same, like in the United States of America, trained Job Corps. The very same people that have trained with Norwegian crew. With the Norwegian crew. Norwegians were the one that have brought them in the United States of America. And I'm talking about firm communist scum. I'm talking about a regular, what you would say, carpenters and stuff like that, who were part of the Norwegian workforce that have trained in the United States of America. I am trying to tell you this very same Eastern European communist scum, because the King Harald does not work with anyone else than Eastern European communist scum. It's very important for you to understand. This very same Eastern European communist scum was used when I was again in Bergen in Norway. They were stationed in very same hostel where I was to literally interrupt, to destruct with my life, with my personal life in that hostel, because I was not even allowed to lodge or rent my own place anywhere else. I was compelled in those hostel settings, just so all that stuff, all that terror was conducted against me, which portion of it also were Eastern Europeans, like I have stated, no different from Job Corps. The same thing is going on. So you may want to keep this in mind. The job in Norway might not be what you expect. Okay, this video, I think it's already too much. The time did run out. More on my cultural procedures, how it's done about Helle Björklund, psychiatry, psychology, McCulture, all that stuff in my next video. Stay tuned.
Remember when you ran away and I got on my knees and begged you not to leave because I'd go berserk? Well, you left me anyhow, and then the days got worse and worse, and now you see I've gone completely out of my mind. And they're coming to take me away, haha, they're coming to take me away, ho ho.